The bronze is cold against your skin, not the polished bronze of museum displays, but rough, pitted. The patina has a texture your fingers can feel from across the room if you know what you're looking for. You're standing in a reproduction of a Spartan Sycamore hall, narrow, stone floor. The air smells of dust, old wine, and something metallic you can't quite place. There are 8 wooden benches around a low table. On the table, a single clay bowl. The bowl holds 1 serving of black broth. You've been told your entire life that the human body needs a specific formula. So many grams of protein, so many carbohydrates, timing your meals around workouts. Drink water before you feel thirsty. If you skip a meal, you're starving yourself. The warrior who sat at this bench 3,000 years ago ate once a day. He ate what was in that bowl. He did not starve. Now here's what never appears in the popular version of this story. The Spartan ration system was not primitive. It was not a failure of logistics. It was not what historians used to call a necessity of poverty. It was engineering, and produced soldiers who could march 30 miles in full bronze, fight for hours, and then do it again the next day on less food than a modern teenager consumes in a single snack. 2 civilizations looked at the same problem. How do you keep a fighting force operational for 30 days with no supply chain? One civilization invented protein powders, pre-workout formulas, calorie tracking apps, and a multi-billion-dollar industry built around the fear of not eating enough. The other civilization gave its men a bowl of broth, a handful of barley, and a cup of sour wine. One of these approaches produced thermopylae. You know which one. If that contrast snagged something in you, if you've ever felt the weight of that anxiety in the supplement aisle, then you already understand why this channel exists. We dissect the systems that built the hard men of history, then ask what they mean for you today. Subscribe so you don't miss the next time we take a modern assumption apart at the foundation, and in the comments, drop the word thermopylae. I want to see how many of you recognize the pivot before I named it. Here's the detail that changes everything about how you understand this. The Spartan ration was not a starvation diet. It was a precision tool. Every ingredient in that black broth served a specific purpose. The pork blood provided iron and electrolytes. The vinegar acted as a natural preservative and antibacterial agent. The barley delivered slow-release carbohydrates. The wine, diluted to reduce alcohol content, provided calories and killed pathogens in the water. This was not guesswork. This was a system developed over generations, tested in combat, refined by experience. The Spartans did not have laboratory analysis, but they had something more reliable. They had a feedback loop of life and death. Recipes that failed produced dead soldiers. Recipes that worked produced survivors. After 3 centuries of this experiment, what remained was not just food. It was a formula. A single serving of black broth, by modern analysis, contained approximately 400 calories. A full day's ration for a Spartan hoplite, including his barley, cheese, figs, and wine, totaled roughly 1,600 calories. This is less than what most modern dieters consume for breakfast. The average American male consumes approximately 2,400 calories per day. The average elite infantry soldier in the US Army is allocated 2,600 calories per day as baseline. Deployments can push this higher. You are eating 50% more than a Spartan warrior. You are not 50% stronger. If you've ever stood in a grocery store aisle, staring at supplements, wondering if you're getting enough protein, you already know the feeling. The anxiety of deficiency, The fear that your body is one missed meal away from collapse. The industry depends on this fear. It sells you the problem and the solution in the same bottle. The Spartan warrior did not own a bottle. He owned a spear. Let me be clear about what this means. The modern nutrition industry is built on the assumption that more is better. More protein, more calories, more meals, more supplements. The entire structure of gym culture, meal planning, and optimization culture rests on the premise that human performance is a function of input volume. The Spartans disproved this premise 2,000 years before it was invented. If you're still here after that statement, you're exactly the kind of person this channel was built for. Someone who can tolerate the discomfort of having an assumption dismantled. Someone who wants to see the full architecture, not just the surface-level motivation quote. Because the Spartan system was not about willpower. It was about adaptation. Modern research on caloric restriction and military performance has confirmed something that the Spartans already knew. A 30% energy deficit sustained over 30 days does not produce a 30% drop in combat capability. In a 2022 NATO-funded study of 150 soldiers, subjects who consumed 25% fewer calories for 30 days showed no significant loss in combat-specific strength. Their maximal oxygen consumption dropped by 7%. But their ability to perform military tasks remained intact. The body adapts. It becomes more efficient. It learns to do more with less. This is the opposite of what you've been told. Consider what happens when a modern person faces a missed meal, panic, a trip to the vending machine, the belief that hunger is an emergency. The Spartan warrior did not experience hunger as an emergency. He experienced it as a signal, a normal part of the daily cycle. The black broth was not a deprivation. It was the fuel. The difference is not biological. The difference is cultural. You have been trained to fear what a Spartan was trained to tolerate. Write this in your mind. At what point did recognizing this become personal? Was it when you realized that your own body could function on less? Or was it when you understood that the limitation is not in your physiology, but in your mind? This is the moment where you stop being a spectator and become part of the group that sees clearly. The men who can handle the truth without needing it sugar-coated. Subscribe to join the minority who chooses adaptation over comfort. And in the comments, tell me exactly when the realization hit. Was it the NATO study, the calorie comparison, or something earlier? I want the sentence that first made you feel the crack in your own assumption. Here is the evidence that confirms this is not romanticism. A 2021 study published in the Journal of Applied Social Psychology examined 212 soldiers undergoing a 30% caloric reduction for 30 days. The researchers found a 22% increase in perceived unit cohesion. The soldiers reported higher willingness to sacrifice personal comfort for the group. The Spartan ration system was not just nutrition, it was training. The shared meal, the minimal portions, the collective endurance of hunger. This built bonds stronger than any protein shake could produce. You cannot buy cohesion in a tub. Now, here is where the story inverts completely. The popular version says that Spartan warriors were superhuman, that they were born different, that their brutal discipline was a matter of genetics or divine favor. This is a lie designed to make you feel that you could never achieve what they achieved. The truth is darker and more useful. Spartan warriors were not born different, they were engineered. The agoge was a system of deliberate metabolic conditioning. The minimal rations were not a hardship to be endured. They were a tool to be used. By forcing the body to operate on fewer calories, the Spartans trained their soldiers to function in environments where supply chains failed. They did not predict modern nutrition science. They discovered it through trial and error over 5 centuries. A 30-day ration for a Spartan hoplite included approximately 30 kilograms of barley, 15 kilograms of cheese, 10 kilograms of dried figs, and a supply of wine diluted at a ratio of 3 parts water to 1 part wine. This was packed by the women of the household, stored in clay amphorae, and carried on the soldier's back during marches. The total weight of the ration was less than the weight of his shield. A modern military MRE weighs approximately 600 grams per meal. A 30-day supply of MREs weighs 18 kilograms. The Spartan carried his rations, his weapons, his armor, and his bedding. He marched in bronze. He slept on the ground. He did not complain about the food. A 2019 study in the journal Endocrinology examined 84 men on a 30% energy deficit for 30 days. The researchers found that cortisol increased by 18%. Testosterone decreased by 12%. But muscle strength did not decline significantly. The body preserved its combat capability at the expense of non-essential functions. The Spartan warrior was not weakened by his diet. He was specialized. His body learned to prioritize fighting over everything else. This is a system that produced the men who held the hot gates. 300 soldiers against an army of hundreds of thousands. They did not win through superior nutrition. They won through superior adaptation. You have been sold a story about what the human body needs. The story says that you are fragile, that you need constant input, that a missed meal is a crisis, that your performance depends on optimization. The Spartans lived a different story. Their story said that the body is a tool, that it can be hardened, that less can produce more, that hunger is not an emergency. The question is not whether the Spartan system worked. The evidence is clear. The question is whether you have the discipline to rebuild what you traded for comfort. Consider the shape of your day. How many times do you eat? How many of those meals are driven by habit rather than genuine need? How often do you open a refrigerator out of boredom? The Spartan warrior ate once. He ate what was given to him. He did not have a choice. And in that lack of choice, he found a kind of freedom that you have been denied. The freedom from the anxiety of optimization. The freedom from the belief that every meal must be perfect. The freedom to trust that his body would perform on what it was given. This is not nostalgia. This is not romanticizing the past. This is recognizing that the modern approach to nutrition has created a population that is simultaneously overfed and underadapted. You have access to more food than any human in history. You also have lower baseline resilience than a soldier who lived 2,000 years ago. The men of Laconia had no pills, no apps, no calorie counters, no meal plans, no supplements, no optimization protocols, no fear of deficiency. They had their blood, their bone, and their oath. They had a bowl of black broth, and they conquered an empire. If you are ready to trade comfort for competence, the path is simple. Not easy, simple. Eat less, move more. Trust the adaptation. The system is not a mystery. The system is engineering. But here's the catch. Knowing it is not the same as living it. The system exists, but the will to apply it must come from you. Subscribe right now before the algorithm pulls you into another distraction, so you have a steady source of this engineering when you need it. And in the comments, write the one thing you are going to change starting today, not someday, not when life settles down. Today. I need to see the discipline in your own handwriting.